And now remembrances from two colleagues, Bill Casey from Habitat New Haven and Jacquelynn-Puiefoy Brinkley from our first Suburbs project.
Jonathan and I first became friends back in 1995. That was when he started volunteering for Habitat in New Haven, and at about the same time I'd just been hired as construction manager. And I found out pretty quickly that this was a 21-year-old kid that was someone to be reckoned with. Obviously he was highly intelligent, highly motivated, but he was also a little thick-headed and wouldn't take no for an answer. I liked him immediately. I thought we could do some great things together. And you didn't have to really push John to get things done, but if you wanted to spur him a little bit, all you had to do was challenge him and say, you really didn't think he was going to be able to do that. And I would use that a lot. But you knew when to back off, as his ears would turn bright, bright red. But even at such a young age, he was a great organizer, a great leader, but contrary to what he thought, he was not a great carpenter. And Adam, I'm really surprised. He told me he was a fabulous poker player. So. But John did start our first collegiate build for Habitat in New Haven. As a matter of fact, back then it was one of the first in the nation. He organized the Yale students to volunteer and fundraise, and they also they all bought into this completely. And we developed a really strong relationship with all those students. I still see some here today. And it was a remarkable thing that Jonathan was able to put together. He didn't get a lot of support from the present administration at that time in Habitat. He did it all on his own. And that build was not only a success, but it's grown to the point now where we have 5 area universities and colleges that all contribute and help us to build Habitat homes. And that's all based on what Jonathan started that many years ago. And then in 2004, we'd still been in contact between this time. He'd gone off to Princeton and done some things in Peru. And in 2004, I became executive director. And at the same time, Jonathan came back to Yale to go to law school. And the only reason I took this job is because Jonathan told me I should, otherwise I was happy where I was, but I believed him. And it's worked out well, but when they gave me the job, what I didn't know was that we only had $35,000 in the bank and the organization needed $65,000 a month to run. So I immediately called Jonathan and told him I needed some help on the development end, and he was more than happy to chair our committee. And I'm happy to say that 6 years later, the organization is still functioning. We're very financially sound, and it was just because of the seeds that Jonathan planted back then. I can still see them paying dividends from the sponsors we're getting and the donations from the contacts he made back then. Also during this time, Jonathan started the Martin Luther King Day event. This was called Building on the Dream. He was very proud of this event. It was held on Martin Luther King's birthday, and it was a very successful event. It was composed of volunteers working on site, outside, and then we also had an indoor venue where we would have lunch and have a ceremony. We ran it for 3 years, and for those 3 years in a row, the temperature was between 0 and 10 degrees. And the volunteers would be outside and toughing it out, and I couldn't help but notice that every morning John had a really important mission over at the indoor venue while we were so he was a smart man. You know, John's countless hours spent working with Habitat and with me were just amazing. And he spent so much time, as a matter of fact, that I'd always question, how do you get through school? You're always here, you're not in class, you're not studying. And he'd tell me not to worry about it. He had it easily covered. He was actually the only person I've ever met that went to law school that thought it was easy. He just skipped right on through. But his commitment to Habitat and to community service is really second to none. And I'd like to announce that this summer, Habitat for Humanity of Greater New Haven will be dedicating the Jonathan T. Schmidt home. It's going to be 4 doors down from the first collegiate build that Jonathan started, and it will be a lasting tribute to his service. I'm proud to say that Jonathan was my friend, and I used to tease him a lot and tell him that if he kept going back to schools, he'd end up with more degrees than a thermometer, but I'd still be his professor in the University of Life. But as more I thought about that, I think that was really the other way around. John taught me so much about life, about how to live your life, how to serve others, and to really make a positive difference in this world. He set out to make his mark on this earth, and I really believe that he did that. The ripples he started in New Haven are still being spread by the people that he touched there. And even though we're not building on the dream anymore, we've never stopped building on Jonathan's dream in New Haven. Jonathan, I love you very much.
Hello, I'm Jacquelynn-Puiefoy Brinkley, and this is Angela Clinton. She's also a member of the First Suburbs, and she's here with me to support me because that's how we are with each other in this organization that Jonathan created. Robert E. Quinn, the author of Change, wrote, "What we are matters. What we choose to be matters even more." Jonathan chose to map new landscapes, grounded in values that honored integrity, love, grace, wisdom, but most of all, authentic power. Landscapes that gave significance and substance to his life, to the lives of those who came to know and love him, and to the lives of the communities he chose to serve. In one tribute to Jonathan, our dear friend in First Suburbs, colleague Bill Clinton wrote, "Thank you, Jonathan, for choosing to live your life large and to make the most of your considerable intelligence and gifts." I first met Jonathan in 2005, late in 2005. And at that first meeting, we sat in my living room and talked for hours. The other day, I was trying to think, how long was it? It was literally hours that we talked. We were talking about the decline of our older suburbs. At that time, I was an elected official, and I was struggling with the overwhelming problems confronting my town. I felt powerless, and I felt hopeless. However, Jonathan, as you've all heard and all know, was an inspirational figure. He encouraged me to stretch and shift my perspective, to allow greater and more creative solutions to emerge, to look for more elegant win-win strategies, to serve the greater good of the community I represented. All of this was, at that time, just amazing to me. And although I felt powerless and hopeless, Jonathan, as you all know, was an inspirational figure. At that very first meeting, I began to feel confidence and hope for the future of my community. That was the effect Jonathan's presence had on everyone. When our meeting ended, Jonathan said he would be in touch. And I thought, I hope he really means that, because he is someone I want to have in my life. Even then, there seemed something sacred about Jonathan. He was in touch again. I learned that he had had similar one-on-one, that's our First Suburbs language, one-on-one meetings with hundreds of leaders from Pottstown to Chester, from communities that were our First Suburbs, communities that are fiscally stressed and increasingly diverse. Places like his hometown, Upper Darby. He told me more about his vision for bringing people in our region together to organize for change. He had encountered skepticism about that vision, but he was undeterred. And so, with 3 other leaders, Jonathan went on to found the First Suburbs Project. His organizing mentor, Paul Scully, describe Jonathan not only as having razor-sharp organizing skills, but also as an organizer with a vision, a political analysis, and an organizing strategy that was as innovative as it was revolutionary. His groundbreaking organizing approach has influenced the field of organizing across the United States of America. As a founding board member and the current co-chair of the First Suburbs Project, I can tell you personally that Jonathan's vision and tenacity has spawned something revolutionary in our region. It is just 3 years ago that we founded this organization. There were 3 board members that we started with, and now we have 21 dues-paying member institutions representing thousands of people across the region. We have made inroads